Hi, Beasties! I'm here to read you a story today, and I have my Beasties in the room. One of them's back there, and one of them is right here. Say hi, Dash.
Hi. Hello there.
All right, and that's Colin in the background. So I want to read two of my very favorite books to you today. The first one is called John, Paul, George, and Ben, and both of these books are by an author named Lane Smith. Now there's some writing in this book because when I give my little boys a book, I always write them a note. But don't write in your books unless Mom and Dad say you can, okay? All right. Once there were 4 lads, John, Paul, George, and Ben. Make that 5 lads. There was also independent Tom, always off doing his own thing. John was a bold lad. At the start of every school year, the students were asked to write their names on the chalkboard. And every year it was the same story. John, his teacher would say, "You have lovely penmanship. John, your confidence is refreshing. But John, come on. We don't need to read it from space." Look how big his signature is. Paul was a noisy lad. Before fun was invented, people joined bell-ringing clubs. As a member of Boston's Old North Church, Paul spent hours practicing in the Belfry Tower. Over time, that bell ringing took a toll on young Paul. All day long, his head was filled with loud bings and bongs. He had to practically scream just to hear himself talk. Now that's fine around the belfry, but not at work. Extra large underwear? Sure, we have some. Let's see. Large, large, extra large. Here they are. Great big extra large underwear. Paul was like a bullhorn in a china shop. Your wig? Yes, it's coming. And your pink polka dot shirts are coming. And the pink breeches are coming. It took many years and a midnight ride for people to finally appreciate his special talent. The redcoats are coming! Well, okay, everyone except that big underwear lady, she was still mad. George was an honest lad. One day he took his shiny new hatchet and chopped down his family's cherry tree. When his father discovered the tree, he asked, "Son, do you know who killed this beautiful little cherry tree?" "I cannot tell a lie," answered George. "'Twas I who chopped down this tree." "Then run into my arms, dearest boy," cried his father, "for you have paid me for it 1,000-fold with your honesty." "Really?" said George. "In that case, when I tell you I've taken out the apple orchard, leveled the barn, and made kindling of your carriage, you'll be a wealthy, wealthy man." Oh boy, that George has been up to some bad stuff, hasn't he? Ben was a clever lad. Not only did he have a saying for every situation, he generously shared them with anyone, anywhere, at any time. Ben is one of those people we talk about that doesn't have a filter. Yeah. He said, "Fish and visitors stink after 3 days." Ben Franklin really said these things. He considered it his duty to provide frequent free advice. "The sleeping fox catches no poultry. Those who quarrels intercede." Oh, nope, I got that one wrong. "Those who in quarrels interpose must often wipe a bloody nose." Here he says, "If your head is wax, don't walk in the sun." And In this one, he says, 3 can keep a secret if 2 of them are dead. The townsfolk were so taken by his generosity that they came up with a saying especially for Ben. Please shut your big yap. I like it, said Ben. Short and to the point. Work a fox or a turkey in there, and I think you've got something. Tom was an independent lad. One day, his teacher, Mrs. Douglas, asked the class to make birdhouses by gluing macaroni to ye olde balsa wood. Tom happily ignored him and used traditional building materials in a neoclassical design. When the class made a palm tree, Tom took one look and said, "Not on your life," and quickly left. To sketch his own tree. "Young Thomas," fumed Teacher Douglas, "would you mind explaining to the class why you insist on working so independently?" "Certainly," said Tom. "In fact, I've taken the liberty to list the very reasons." "Fear not, sir. I've used small words for the benefit of the dullards." Tom learned the power of his words that day. Mr. Douglas told him to pursue all the life, liberty, and happiness he wanted, independently in the corner. The other students pursued lunch. The rest is history. Say, you want a revolution? Well, John, Paul, George, Ben, and Tom sure did. In April of 1775, they got one. The Redcoats were coming. In fact, King George III's army was marching to Lexington and Concord to arrest John and the other Sons of Liberty. Fortunately, Paul Revere was a noisy man. After his midnight ride, every minute man, woman, and child knew who was coming and what they'd be wearing. It was the start of the Revolutionary War. The Americans needed to formally state their separation from the king, and who better than Thomas Jefferson, an independent man, to write the Declaration of Independence? Simply signing such a document was treasonous and dangerous. Ben Franklin, a clever man, said it best. "We must all hang together," he quipped, "or assuredly we shall all hang separately." One might think twice about signing his name. Not John Hancock. He was a bold man, and he was the first to scribble his autograph. And man, just look at the size of that John Hancock. The war was won thanks to General Washington. Everyone thought he would make a great king for the United States of America. But George Washington was an honest man. "The last thing we need is another King George," he said. President George, however, has a nice ring to it. Ye Olde Epilogue. George didn't live in the White House like all the other presidents. He was asked to live in New York City, where there aren't so many trees. And if you have a chance to get this book called John, Paul, George, and Ben, there are all kinds of other fun facts at the end of the book about the Revolutionary War and about our main characters. So that's John, Paul, George, and Ben by Lane Smith. And our second book today is Grandpa Green, also by Lane Smith. He was born a really long time ago. Before computers or cell phones or television. He grew up on a farm with pigs and corn and carrots. And eggs. And in the 4th grade, he got chicken pox. Not from the chickens. He had to stay home from school, so he read stories about secret gardens and wizards and a little engine that could. In middle school, he stole his first kiss. After high school, his wish was to study horticulture. Horticulture is for people who like plants. But he went to a world war instead. He met his future wife in a little cafe. When the war was over, they were married. They had many happy years together and never, ever fought. At least to hear him tell it. They had kids, way more grandkids, and a great-grandkid, me. Oh, look, there he is. He used to remember everything. Now he's pretty old. And sometimes he forgets things, like his favorite floppy straw hat. But the important stuff, the garden remembers for him. Oh, look at all that stuff in the garden. It's the story of his life. And there's that great-grandkid with Grandpa Green. Can you see Grandpa Green right there? He sure does like plants. Thank you for reading John, Paul, George, and Ben and Grandpa Green with me by Lane Smith. I sure have enjoyed our time. Now you enjoy your day or your evening with your mom and dad and your brothers and sisters, and we'll talk to you soon, okay? Good night.